Don't scream. I'm not here to hurt you, but someone is listening to you. Right now.
The voice came from the darkness behind her. Emily Hayes froze with one hand still on the steering wheel. Her other hand instinctively shot out across the passenger seat, guarding her 8-year-old daughter. Lily didn't even look up from the tablet in her lap. Cartoon voices and bright colors glowed on her face, completely oblivious to the tension filling the black SUV. Emily's throat went dry. There was a man in the back seat. She could see him now in the rearview mirror, a shadow at first. Dark skin, short cropped hair, broad shoulders squeezed into the corner, one hand raised, palms open. "Don't turn around," he said quietly. His voice was low, controlled, like he was holding something back. "If you scream, if you open the door, if you touch your phone, they'll know. And you will lose everything." Emily's pulse hammered in her ears. She tried to keep her breathing even for Lily's sake. Her thumb hovered inches from the door unlock button. "Mom?" Lily murmured, eyes still on the tablet. "Are we going home?" "Yes, sweetheart." Emily forced her voice to sound normal. "Just 1 minute." She swallowed, then pitched her voice even lower. "You have 10 seconds, she whispered, "to tell me who you are and why I shouldn't call security." The man's jaw tightened. "My name is Jamal Carter," he said. "I work in this building. I have something that proves your COO and your assistant are planning to destroy you, and if I'm right..." His gaze flicked to the little girl in the passenger seat. "They're already listening to everything you say in this car." Emily's fingers froze above the buttons. Her heart skipped. He shouldn't know that. Only 4 people knew about the encrypted microphone integrated into her car's system, and 2 of them were Marcus Williams and Diana Foster. The people she trusted most, the people Jamal had just accused. For a second, the world shrank to the soft glow of the dashboard, Lily's cartoon soundtrack, and the stranger's eyes in the mirror. "Give me 1 minute," he said again, softer now. 60 seconds. If I'm wrong, you never have to see me again. If I'm right," he swallowed, "you're not safe. Not from them." Emily held his gaze in the mirror. Her thumb slowly moved away from the door button. She didn't know yet that this was the moment everything would crack. To understand how a stranger ended up in the back seat of her car, threatening to rewrite her life, we have to go back to the day Emily Hayes decided to trust the wrong people. At the top of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan, the city glittered like it belonged to her. Emily stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Hayes Dynamics headquarters, cradling a black coffee in one hand. From here, New York looked clean, orderly, almost gentle. Cars slid along glowing streets, tiny as toys. The river shimmered like stretched foil. On the wall behind her, an enormous digital clock counted down in red numbers. 12 days, 04 hours, 22 minutes, until the merger signing with Asakura Holdings. A billion-dollar deal. The crowning jewel of Emily's career. Headlines already drafted, profiles already scheduled. She'd built Hayes Dynamics from a tiny fintech startup into a global force. She had exactly 3 people she truly trusted with the inner workings of that empire. Her daughter, her COO, and her assistant. "Marcus is waiting in the conference room," a gentle voice said behind her. Emily turned. Diana Foster stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, blonde hair pulled into a perfect low bun, badge gleaming on her tailored blazer. "There's a preliminary call with the Asakura team," Diana continued. "I moved it up 15 minutes. Their Tokyo office had a change in schedule, and Lily's school just emailed. I already replied, and confirmed you'll be at the parent-teacher conference on Friday." Emily smiled faintly. "Sometimes I think you live 3 steps ahead of me." "Someone has to keep the universe from collapsing," Diana said, with a small, self-deprecating smile. Emily left the window. The city. the illusion of calm. In the conference room, Marcus Williams was pacing with restless energy, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. Late 30s, good-looking in a sharp, polished way. He had the easy charisma of someone who knew how to win a room before he even opened his mouth. "There she is," Marcus grinned, opening his arms. "The woman who's about to make us all very, very rich." "Focus," Emily said, but her tone was warm. "We haven't signed anything yet." "We will," Marcus replied, "because you don't lose." He had been there from the beginning, back when Hays Dynamics was just 2 laptops and a rented desk in a co-working space. He'd been the numbers guy, the architect of operations while she charmed investors and obsessed over product. They'd fought side by side, raised money together, survived their first lawsuit, burned through nights and relationships. He'd seen her at her worst and never flinched. If there was anyone she thought would never betray her, it was Marcus. She was wrong. In a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a view of an alley, Jamal Carter leaned over a small bed. "Close your eyes, man," he murmured. His son, Noah, kicked his feet under the blanket, eyes bright. "Are you going to work late again?" Noah asked. "Can we have pancakes tomorrow? You promised pancakes tomorrow." Jamal laughed softly. "I did, didn't I?" He sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing a hand over Noah's curls. "If Mr. Muil Carter gets that bonus he's praying for," he said, doing his best announcer voice, "there will be pancakes, waffles, and maybe, just maybe, a legendary trip to the ice cream shop." Noah's eyes widened. "With the sprinkles?" "With extra sprinkles." Noah finally let his eyes drift closed. Jamal watched his chest rise and fall for a moment, the tension in his shoulders refusing to fully let go. He kissed his son's forehead, then slipped out of the room, picking up his worn black jacket and the lanyard that bore the Hays Dynamics logo. 12-hour shifts, 2 jobs, 1 goal. Keep Noah safe, keep Noah's life clean. Keep him far from the mistakes Jamal had made when he was younger. Jamal had given up a lot. Friends, pride, any job that smelled even remotely like trouble. He thought he'd left those days behind. He hadn't yet heard the conversation that would drag him right back into the line of fire. 3 nights later, the underground parking garage beneath the Hays Dynamics tower hummed with fluorescent lights and the low echo of distant engines. Jamal sat on a low concrete barrier in the corner, phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah, buddy, I'm still at work," he murmured. "No, I can't come home yet." "I told you. Grown-up life is 90% being tired." Noah giggled on the other end, sleepy but fighting it. "Did you eat the sandwich I left you?" Jamal asked. "No chips before bed?" "Maybe some chips," Noah confessed. Jamal sighed theatrically. "You are a menace." Footsteps clicked on polished concrete, echoing through the garage. Jamal glanced up. 2 figures approached from the elevator lobby, deep in conversation. He shifted back into the shadows more out of habit than anything else. Marcus Williams, Diana Foster. They didn't see him. "The board will eat it up," Marcus was saying. His voice bounced off the concrete pillars, clear and confident. "An internal investigation. Our own CEO stepping down to protect the company's image." "Marcus," Diana interrupted, her tone low. "We're playing with fire. If she finds out—" "She won't." He cut her off, with that same impatient charm he used in board meetings. "That's the beauty of it. Every suspicious transfer goes to accounts in her name. Every shell company lines up to trace back to Emily. By the time the merger is signed, we'll have all we need to push her out." Jamal's body went still. On the phone, Noah kept talking. Something about a cartoon at school. The words became a distant buzz in Jamal's ear. Diana's heels clicked closer. "What about the back door in her car?" she asked. "You said the tech team. It's already installed," Marcus replied. We hear everything she says once she steps inside that SUV. Phones are cleaner these days. Cars? He let out a soft, humorless laugh. Cars are a gold mine. Noah's voice filtered weakly through the phone. Dad? Are you still there? Jamal's thumb jabbed at the screen, ending the call. His heart rammed against his ribs. He shouldn't be hearing this. He knew better than to stick around places where important people whispered. He started to stand. His foot knocked against a stray wrench on the floor. It clattered loudly, the sound ricocheting through the garage. Marcus and Diana froze. What was that? Diana hissed. Jamal dropped into a crouch, ducked behind the nearest vehicle. A black SUV. He knew this car. He'd washed it, parked it, driven it up for Emily Hayes more than once. He pressed his back to the passenger side door, every muscle tense. Marcus peered into the gloom, scanning shadows. Probably one of the maintenance guys, he said finally, though his eyes stayed sharp. Relax. We're not the villains in a movie, Diana. No one cares enough to listen. Diana didn't look convinced. She scanned the garage one more time, eyes sweeping dangerously close to Jamal's hiding place, then turned away. The elevator swallowed them. Jamal stayed frozen a long moment after they were gone, chest heaving. He checked the name on the key hook by the far wall. Hayes. PH level Emily's car. The car they had just admitted was wired to listen to her. He could have walked away. Pretended he heard nothing. People like him didn't get tangled in other people's power games and walk away intact. But that little line Marcus had used stayed in his head, curdling his stomach. Once she signs those merger papers, she's done. We own Hayes Dynamics. Own. Jamal thought of Noah, of the years he'd spent trying to teach his boy right from wrong when the world so rarely played by the rules. He thought of the way Emily's daughter had smiled at him last week, clutching a stuffed giraffe he'd retrieved from a back seat. Thank you, Mr. J, Lily had chirped. He'd grinned and joked. Anytime, Miss L, it's in my contract. Rescue stuffed animals. Save the day. Now his throat felt tight. He slid into the back seat of Emily's SUV, heart thudding, closing the door with the smallest click. The same sound that days later would make Emily's blood run cold. He waited in that dark back seat with a cheap recording app still open on his phone and a decision sitting heavy on his shoulders. The garage was nearly empty now. The air smelled faintly of oil and cold metal. In the front seat, Emily's jaw clenched. Behind her, Jamal looked impossibly large in the back seat, his frame tense but coiled inward, done making himself small for other people's comfort. You heard them, Emily said slowly. Marcus and Diana, here in this garage. Yes. And you have proof? He nodded. I recorded what I could that night. It's not perfect, but it's enough to match voices, to show intent. And I've seen some of the accounts they mentioned. I used to do security for a bank. The pattern, it's bad. Emily's mind raced. Her eyes flicked to the dashboard camera, which was, of course, securely encrypted and stored on external servers managed by her tech team, recommended by Marcus. Why didn't you go to the police? She asked. Or to building security? Or to anyone other than the woman you just scared half to death? A bitter, humorless smile tugged at his mouth. Because I'm a black man with a record, he said quietly. And they're rich, white executives about to sign a billion-dollar deal. Who do you honestly think the police would believe? Emily hesitated. The bluntness of his words cut through layers of corporate etiquette. He leaned forward slightly, still keeping his hands visible. You can check me, he continued. My name, my file. I'm not a saint. I did stupid things when I was younger. That's why I'm so careful now. Why I don't go near this kind of... He gestured vaguely around them. Corruption. But I heard what I heard. And if I walk away knowing they're about to frame you, and I say nothing, then I'm exactly the kind of man I promised my son I'd never be again. Emily exhaled slowly. Lily, she said, turning slightly. Sweetheart, can you put your headphones on? Watch your movie? Lily glanced back, finally noticing Jamal. Her eyes widened for a heartbeat, then softened with recognition. Mr. J, she said, you're here too? Jamal forced a small smile. Hey, Miss L. Emily's gaze flicked between them. Headphones, she repeated gently. Lily obeyed, slipping bright pink headphones over her ears, turning the volume up. Cartoon sounds leaked out faintly. The world narrowed to 3 people, and the air growing heavier inside the car. Emily spoke without moving her lips much, voice a whisper. You said they're listening. Yes, through your car's system. I don't know how often, I don't know who's monitoring it, but I know they mentioned it. If you talk about this here, they'll know. Her mind made a sharp turn. Get out, she said suddenly. Both of you. Now. Jamal blinked. What? She cut him off with a look that brooked no argument. Lily, tablet off. We're getting some fresh air. Within seconds, they were out of the car, Emily locking it with a sharp beep, the sound bouncing off the concrete. She took Lily's hand, nodded for Jamal to follow, and walked toward the far stairwell, away from the elevators, away from obvious cameras. On the landing between levels, she finally stopped. Now, she said, show me. At a tiny table in a side cafe blocks from the office, Emily listened to the recording for the first time. The hiss of the garage, the echo of footsteps. And then, clear as a broadcast, we pin everything on her. The company is ours. Marcus's voice, unmistakable. The words cut through whatever denial she had left. Beside her, Jamal kept his eyes on the door, scanning instinctively. It's real, she murmured, mostly to herself. It's them. She felt something inside her shift, a familiar old pain. Years ago, during the early chaotic days of the company, an investor she'd trusted had stolen an idea and tried to replicate her platform with another team. It had nearly killed Hayes Dynamics before it began. She'd learned to fortify contracts, to guard her IP, to keep people at arm's length. She had not considered she'd need armor against her own right hand. Could this be cut together? She asked finally. Deepfake, altered. It's possible, sure, Jamal said. But why would I? What do I gain from making this up? I'm not asking you for money. She studied him. What do you want then? She asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. I have a son. I want him to grow up in a world where, when you see something wrong, you can actually do something. That's it. And if I do nothing? She pressed. His jaw clenched. Then I'll take this to someone else, he said. Media, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a strategist. But I'll try. Because if they're willing to do this to you, they'll do worse to whoever's next. Emily stared down at her coffee, watching the thin film on its surface quiver with the faint vibrations of the city. Finally, she looked up. Don't, she said. Don't go to anyone else. Not yet. Why? Because if you do, they'll spin it before it even hits the air. They'll bury you, your name, your son, and they'll walk away clean. Her eyes hardened. If we do this, if we go after them, we do it right. We make sure there's no way out. We. The word hung between them. Jamal blinked slowly, then nodded. What do you need? He asked. Over the next week, Emily lived a double life. By day, she was the same poised CEO, shaking hands with Japanese investors, calmly answering questions from the board, smiling for the press. Marcus stood at her side, cracking jokes, keeping the energy light. Diana hovered nearby, her second brain and silent shield. By night, Emily quietly logged into hidden accounts, cross-checking transfers, watching for patterns. She had her own digital skeleton keys, tools she rarely used herself anymore. Now she used everything. There it was. Small amounts at first, then growing. Unusual transfers to shell companies with names just obscure enough to blend into the noise, all technically authorized under her digital signature. Each one traceable back to her, unless you knew what you were looking for. She saw how funds looped back into private accounts Marcus had influence over. She saw Diana's fingerprints in access logs, in approvals she was never supposed to initiate alone. The betrayal hit in waves. She'd gone to Diana's birthday dinners. She'd listened to Marcus rant about his divorce. They'd been in the waiting room when Lily was born. They knew her. And they'd used that knowledge to design the perfect trap. Late one night, Emily met Jamal again, this time in a rented co-working space under a fake name across town. "You sure this is okay?" he asked, looking around at the empty desks. "I own the building," she said. "Through 3 holding companies. We're safe." He let out a low whistle. Between them, a laptop hummed. Files spreading across the screen like a spider's web. "Here," Emily pointed. "See this? They schedule transfers right before high-volume days in our payment system. It buries the movement. If you're not actively monitoring for it, you'd miss it." Jamal leaned closer. "But if someone does monitor it, then it starts to look like embezzlement," Emily said. "Fraud carried out by the person whose credentials match every transfer. You. Me," he exhaled. "So they set you up to look dirty, then discover it at the perfect time. Right before the merger," she said. "They'll frame it as protecting Asakura Holdings from a scandal. They'll ask me to step down for the good of the company. And once I'm out, they'll control the narrative. And the money." Silence settled over them for a moment, heavy and thick. "Can you stop the merger?" Jamal asked. Emily shook her head slowly. "I don't want to. I've worked too hard. The deal is good. For the company, for our employees, for the tech we're building. I'm not handing that to them just because they chose to betray me. So what do you do?" She sat back, eyes narrowing, brain clicking through possibilities like gears locking into place. "We let them think it's working," she said. "We give them enough rope to wrap around their own necks. Then we pull." "How?" "You said you used to work in bank security," she replied. "You know how to act like the weak link?" Jamal's lips parted in faint surprise. "You want me to?" "I want you to let Marcus think he can buy you," Emily said. "I want him confident, careless, the kind of careless that runs his mouth. We'll record everything, clean, high quality, with chain of custody. We'll loop in an external auditor under NDA, and then—" She imagined it. The conference room, the Asakura team, the board. Marcus smiling as he prepared to destroy her, and then everything turning. She could almost hear it. "Then we show them exactly who he is," she finished. Jamal watched her, respect slowly replacing skepticism. "You're scary," he said quietly. "That's what they keep forgetting," Emily replied. The week blurred into a quiet war. Jamal started working more late shifts, making himself visible in the right places. He let slip, in the hearing of one of Marcus's aides, that he was behind on rent, that he'd had to choose between paying bills and buying his son new shoes. 2 days later, Marcus bumped into him near the loading dock. "Jamal, right?" Marcus said, flashing a friendly smile. "How are things?" "Can't complain," Jamal replied, tugging at his lanyard. "It's a job." Marcus gave a sympathetic little chuckle. "I remember those days, hustling just to keep the lights on. How's your boy?" "Noah, isn't it?" The fact that he knew Noah's name made Jamal's stomach twist. He forced himself to respond evenly. "He's good. Growing fast. Growing expensive." Marcus laughed. "Kids do that." Over the next week, the conversations escalated. Casual at first, then more pointed. "You seem like someone who understands discretion," Marcus said one evening. "Who knows how to not see things that aren't his business?" Jamal tilted his head. "I guess that depends." He swallowed. "What are we talking about?" "We're talking about opportunities," Marcus replied. "Extra work, extra pay. No one gets hurt. You just look the other way sometimes." Jamal played his role well, hesitant, tempted, wary. Enough pushback to make his eventual agreement believable. Every word was recorded, every meeting geo-tagged, every payment logged. Emily commissioned an independent forensic accountant under strict secrecy. She gave them access to everything: her accounts, the transfers, the logs. She watched their expression tighten as they read. "I'm going to be honest with you, Miss Borbor. Hayes," the auditor said over a secure call. "If you hadn't caught this now, in 6 months, you'd be in a courtroom trying to prove you didn't steal your own money." "And can we prove I didn't?" she asked. "Yes," they said. "But more importantly, we can prove who did." That was all she needed. On the morning of the big meeting, Manhattan's sky was a hard, cruel blue. In the executive conference room on the top floor, everything gleamed: glass, chrome, polished wood. A pot of green tea steamed gently at one end of the table, flanked by elegant cups for the Asakura Holdings delegation. The Japanese investors sat with straight backs, their expressions polite but unreadable. Emily walked in last, calm, composed in a dark navy suit. Her hair was pulled back, makeup immaculate. No tremor betrayed the storm under her skin. Marcus stood near the head of the table, all easy charm. "Emily," he said warmly. "Perfect timing. We were just discussing final numbers. I think the Asakura team will be very pleased." "I'm sure they will," she replied, taking her seat. Diana glided in behind, distributing printed packets with quiet efficiency. The meeting began. There were presentations, slides of projections, market share, technology roadmaps. Emily spoke fluently about Hayes Dynamics' future. The Asakura representatives nodded, asked measured questions. Everything looked normal. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "If I may," he said, with just the right amount of regret in his tone. "Before we proceed further, I feel it's my responsibility to address something, for the sake of transparency." Emily's fingers tightened around her pen. "Here we go." "As you all know," Marcus continued, "Hayes Dynamics has always prided itself on integrity, on clean business, on doing things right. Recently, some irregularities came to my attention. Financial movements that concerned me." He pressed a button. On the screen, numbers appeared. Transfers, accounts, charts. To anyone not in the loop, it would look damning. "On the surface," Marcus went on, "these funds appear to move from company accounts into entities controlled by our CEO. I believe Emily has been under immense pressure, and I truly hope there's an explanation. But I couldn't, in good conscience, stay silent in front of our prospective partners." He turned to Emily, eyes full of manufactured concern. "Emily, perhaps you could clarify." The room seemed to hold its breath. Emily let the silence stretch a heartbeat longer than was comfortable. Then she set her pen down. "You're right, Marcus," she said softly. "Transparency is everything." She rose from her seat, crossing to the control panel. For a moment, she looked like any CEO summoned to defend herself in front of investors and her own team. Marcus relaxed slightly. He thought he'd won. Emily tapped a different button. The slide on the screen vanished. Static. Garage echo. And then, projected into the pristine conference room, came Marcus's own voice. "We pin everything on her. The company is ours." The words fell like stones into water. Diana's face drained of color. The Asakura delegation exchanged quick, startled looks. Emily let the recording play. Every line, every casual admission of intent, every cynical plan. Marcus stood frozen, as if his body hadn't yet processed what his ears were hearing. When the audio ended, the room felt colder. Emily turned back slowly, her eyes settling on Marcus and Diana in turn. "Transparency," she repeated. "That's what you wanted, isn't it?" "Emily, this is—" Marcus began, his voice a shade too high. She cut him off, voice steady as steel. "That recording was verified by 2 independent audio forensics firms," she said. "The financial movements you just presented have been analyzed by an external auditor under NDA. Every transfer you tried to frame as my doing, every account you used my credentials to access, we trace them, not to me." She tilted her head. "To you." She nodded subtly. The conference room doors opened. 2 NYPD officers stepped in alongside a woman in a dark suit, her lawyer, and a representative from the regulatory agency overseeing their industry. Diana rose to her feet. "Emily, you can't just—" "You accessed restricted systems without authorization," Emily said quietly. "You falsified internal documents. You conspired to manipulate a billion-dollar merger for personal gain. And you tried to bury it under my name." She glanced at the Asakura team, her voice softening but not losing its edge. "To our partners from Asakura Holdings, this is exactly why I chose to move now. Because if you're going to trust your future to us, you deserve to know who you're dealing with. Not the mask, the truth." The lead Asakura representative, Mr. Sato, regarded her for a long moment. "Ms. Hayes," he said finally, his English precise. "In our culture, we value those who confront problems directly rather than hide them. It appears you have done exactly that." Marcus tried again, desperate now. "You can't. This is entrapment. You set me up." Emily's eyes flashed. "No," she said softly. "You set yourself up the day you decided my company was something you could steal." The officers moved. Handcuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists. Diana's protests dissolved into a choked sob as she too was led to the door. As they were escorted out past the stunned investors, Marcus twisted to look at Emily one last time. "We built this together," he hissed. "You and me. You owe me." "I owe you nothing," she replied. "Hayes Dynamics was never yours to take." The door closed behind them. Silence fell. Emily let out a breath she'd been holding for weeks. Mr. Sato broke the quiet, folding his hands calmly. "Shall we?" he said. "Continue our discussion. It seems you have just demonstrated your commitment to protecting your company's integrity. That reassures us." Emily nodded, her voice lower now. "Yes," she said. "Let's talk about the future." The arrests made headlines before the end of the day. COO and assistant of tech, giant arrested in embezzlement scheme. Attempted corporate coup thwarted by CEO. Pundits argued over what it meant. Some called Emily ruthless. Others called her a visionary. Stocks dipped, then surged higher than before as trust in her leadership stabilized. Inside her penthouse that night, none of it mattered as much as the quiet. Lily slept in her room, hugging the same stuffed giraffe Jamal had once retrieved from the car. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, a small USB drive resting on her palm, the recording that had almost destroyed her and had ultimately saved her. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Heard the news. You okay?" She stared at it for a moment, then typed back. "Come by the office tomorrow, 10 a.m., bring Noah." The next day, Jamal stood awkwardly in the vast glass lobby of Hayes Dynamics, Noah's small hand gripping his. "This place is huge," Noah whispered. "Don't touch anything," Jamal whispered back. "Mr. Carter?" The receptionist smiled. "Ms. Hayes is expecting you, top floor." In the elevator, Noah pressed his face to the glass as the city sank away beneath them. When the doors opened, Emily was already there, waiting. Gone was the hard mask she'd worn in the boardroom. Today her hair was down, blazer open over a simple blouse. She looked human, tired, relieved. Lily darted out from behind her. "Noah!" she squealed. "There's a candy machine on this floor. Come on!" Within seconds, the two kids were racing down the hall, their laughter echoing off the polished walls, leaving the adults alone. Jamal shifted his weight, suddenly self-conscious. "I wasn't sure you'd actually text," he said. "I wasn't sure you'd actually show up," she replied. They shared a small, unexpected smile. "Thank you," Emily said after a moment, the words low but steady. "If you hadn't been in that garage, if you hadn't chosen to tell me," she shook her head, "they would have destroyed everything I've built, and I would never have seen it coming." He shrugged, but his eyes softened. "You would have figured it out eventually." "Not in time." She held his gaze. "You risked your job. Your safety. Maybe more. Not many people would have done that." Jamal looked down at his hands. "I didn't do it for you," he said quietly. "Not entirely. I did it because of him." He nodded toward the hallway where Noah's laughter still floated back. "I tell him all the time to stand up when he sees something wrong. I couldn't be a hypocrite." Emily nodded slowly. "That's exactly why I want you here today," she said. She gestured toward a glass-walled meeting room where a few people waited. Lawyers, HR, a representative from a nonprofit. "I'm starting something new," she continued. "A foundation for whistleblowers and single parents who get caught in the crossfire of corporate games. People like you. People who see things, who want to do the right thing, but know the system isn't built to protect them." On the wall behind the table, a logo was displayed. Carter Hayes Foundation. Jamal stared at it. "Carter," he repeated slowly. As in you," she said simply. "You didn't ask for anything, but you deserve a lot. A stable job, support for Noah, the chance to use what you know to help people instead of watching from the shadows." He swallowed, eyes suddenly bright. "You're serious," he said. "Extremely." He let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "What would I even do?" he asked. "I'm just a guy who used to guard vaults and now parks cars." "You're a guy who understands how systems fail the people at the bottom," Emily replied. "A guy who kept his word, even when it scared him. The foundation needs someone who can talk to people like that. Someone who gets it. Someone who can say, 'I've been where you are.'" She extended her hand. "Work with me," she said. "Not for me. With me." He looked at her hand for a long moment, thinking of late nights, of fear, of his son's wide eyes when he'd promised to be better. Then he took it. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." Months later, the SUV still sat in the underground garage, the same black metal shell. But something had changed. The hidden microphone had been ripped out, its wiring carefully removed. The back seat, once a place of fear, now carried science fair projects and forgotten backpacks. On a rainy evening, Emily drove through the city with Lily chattering about school in the passenger seat. At a red light, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Jamal's reflection smiled back at her from the backseat, Noah dozing against his side, clutching a new comic book. They were coming back from a foundation event. A woman had stood on stage, trembling, and talked about how the Carter Hayes Foundation had given her legal support when she reported fraud at her workplace, how she'd almost lost everything, how she hadn't. Lily yawned. "Mom, can they come over for dinner?" Emily caught Jamal's eye in the mirror. He looked like he was about to apologize, to politely decline. "You're coming," she said before he could speak. "No arguments. Noah needs to see my famous overcooked pasta." Jamal laughed softly. "If it's famous, it can't be that bad." "Oh, it's terrible," she deadpanned. "That's why it's famous." The light turned green. The city glowed through the raindrops on the windshield, each one catching a piece of neon, of taxi lights, of something softer underneath the steel. Emily's fingers brushed against a familiar object in the center console, the small USB drive. She didn't need it anymore. The case was over. Marcus and Diana's trials were public record now. There were bigger stories, newer scandals. But she kept it there, not as a wound, but as a reminder that even in the dirtiest corners of power, someone had chosen to do the right thing. There in the back seat of a wiretapped car, under flickering lights, she had not been alone. She slipped the drive back into its little velvet pouch. Beside her, Lily hummed along to a song on the radio. In the back, Noah snored softly. Jamal looked out at the city, eyes quieter now, less watchful. Emily let herself breathe. In a city where trust was a luxury, she'd lost almost everything. But she had walked through the fire and found something unexpected. Not just her company, not just justice, but a new kind of family, built not on blood or contracts, but on the simple, dangerous decision to stand beside someone when the world was ready to tear them apart. She turned the corner toward home. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside the car, for the first time in a very long time, Emily Hayes felt safe. If this story stirred something in you, a memory of being betrayed, or of someone stepping up when they didn't have to, take a second and imagine what you would say to Emily or to Jamal. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in their own parking garage moment, trying to decide whether to stay silent or to speak.